it's the outdoor season, right? That's always an important time for integrators to get out there and start installing, some of our SunBrite TVs, the episode speakers. They might be working on lighting and all kinds of different things. Basically with the the world right now, it's probably even more important as people are spending more on their homes. People are in general, and then people are choosing to stay home rather than vacation. So whether they're adding more entertainment outdoors, they're wanting to work outdoors. It's becoming an ever more important aspect of the business. So I think what we want to accomplish is, we'll cover some of the basics, but also open it up to mostly questions from our partners to help them with any challenges they may have in a project. If they're new to installing outdoors, answer those questions, guide them whether it's choosing product, design, or installation. We want to make sure that they know we're here for them and to answer their questions, and anything we can't answer, we'll find an answer. So with that, I'll turn it over to the real experts between you and the product team, and I'll jump in with any thoughts I may have.
Sounds great. I think I'm just going to put right on the hot seat, right, as we love to do every Wednesday in our webinar series. Steve, it looks like you're attentive. It looks like I'm coming your way. No, I have to say, and every week our the SnapAV Pro stores, we feel like we're kind of like this renegade rogue kind of entity. But you know what? We've got the best products in the business. Steve, I cannot tell you how much right now we are focused on SunBrite. All of us. We've got a promotion going on. It's a $100 rebate. I want you to kind of talk about your passion with the product, why it's the best product for the applications that our dealers are getting faced with. Let's talk SunBrite. It's in every store, a very successful line. Volutone's been carrying it for years, actually. So we got a lot of confidence. We got a lot of panels out in the field. Please talk to our dealers for a little bit. I'm going to give you the spotlight for a sec. Let's talk SunBrite.
Yeah, hey, great to meet everybody. Steve Tomlinson. I've been with Snap for just a little bit over 8 months now. I'm responsible for outdoor TVs and SunBrite, as well as film screens and projectors. But since today is all things outdoors, we'll be focused on SunBrite today. So as many of you may or may not know, SunBrite is what's the category creator for outdoor TVs, right? So it all started with an idea of how do we put a TV outside. The founders of the company were successful in creating a TV that can withstand the elements that are thrown at it day in and day out, right? And so sure, you can put a TV outdoors. You could take a very inexpensive TV and put it outside, but you're number one, you're voiding the warranty the first time that TV goes outside. And number two, that TV's got a high rate of potentially failing, as well as there's actually some risk associated with it that you actually cause some fire associated with that TV. So it's important to us to have, being the category creator, to make sure that we're making the safest possible product for the space, as well as products that meet the environments that our customers are going to expose them to, and that your customers are going to expose them to as well. So we have 3 lines of SunBrite TVs. There's the veranda line, which is a full shade line. So it's intended for areas that are outside, but not really going to get a lot of high ambient light. The signature line, which is the line that Gary was referring to, is we currently have a promotion going on for the month of April. That is a partial sun. So it's an area that's getting a lot of high ambient light, but not taking direct sunlight. And I think that's a point of clarification for people. Sure, it could take a little bit of direct sunlight to it, but it's not intended to have the sun beat down on it, because when the sun hits that screen and puts constant heat against that screen, no matter what you do, the screen that we have in that panel is going to experience some blackouts just associated with the heat. And that's a situation where you really want to move into the Pro line, which is our 3rd line. That is a full sun. So it is a full sun panel. So it is what we call a high TNI panel. It can withstand the direct sunlight. It's the brightest panel that we offer. And it's also a great opportunity for commercial implementation as well, right? Because it actually has a glass screen protectant covering on the top of it that's IKO8 rated. So it can take those bangs and dings and bumps. And that IKO8 rating is essentially where we take a 2-pound metal ball from 5 feet and drop it on the screen to make sure that it won't damage. And so it's a great opportunity to withstand the impacts that can happen in a residential application, and specifically as well as in a commercial application. Circling back to that SIG promo right now, if you're not aware, We have significant price reductions in our 55-inch, 65-inch, and 75-inch TVs. Those are the max discount is almost $3,500 off the MSRP, and so it's a really huge savings, and we're seeing a lot of great uptake on that promotion right now, thanks to the focus of our locals as well as on the e-commerce side as well. So I'm passionate about the business. I think we make the best outdoor TV, and I think we've proven over the years with our experience that we know where the pitfalls can come. We've seen them, we've adapted, and we've adjusted our product lines to make sure that we're covering any environmental thing you might possibly see out.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, Steve, first of all, asking from all the dealers' standpoint, how is productivity? How is product lines flowing for you? Have you, going through what we've gone through over the last year, how's stock levels? Confident?
We're fairly confident in stock levels. I don't think you could ever be 100% confident in stock level when you're talking about a product that has a very high seasonal curve associated with it, right? When you start talking about outdoor product categories, you can get spikes and peaks and valleys there. I will say I think the supply chain team has done a great job trying to mitigate issues that could be out there. I think everybody is aware that there are some shortages out there due to COVID in the supply chain world, especially on boards and such. So we're working very diligently to make sure we can stay as in stock as humanly possible and making the appropriate buys to support it.
Yeah, I urge all of our dealers. I mean, we've got very active websites. All of us do. And for all the SnapAV Pro stores, there's 4 separate entryways into that. But I think for the most part, we're all very patient with all of that. It's more just setting up logistics for the job and for the installation that's coming up. And that's where the SnapAV Pro stores come in handy, or are crucial with working on timely delivery, setting up, and getting ready to actually install. But Steve, I had a question. I love that we've got the 3 different lines, and just hey, if all of us aren't so lucky as Adam to have 4 or 5 different panels out in the backyard, and you're choosing one, right? And it's all about sunlight. It really is. And we've got 3 that really complement that, or are the solutions to that. Do we, as a company, find ourselves selling more of the Signature just because it's in that medium range? Or we're talking about sunlight specifically. Sure, it's the time of year. There's so many variables. So can you dive deeper into your the lighting aspects in choosing the TV, if you will?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we do see is a lot of customers do index more towards the veranda line, which is the full shade line. And I think a lot of times it's, and in some cases we see people put that in spaces where maybe it's not the ideal location, but it's being driven based on price. And the reality is what we're trying to sell is the experience for the end user. So if it is a full shade environment, then that's a great solution. But if you think there's going to be, you're putting it out by a pool, and there's no covering on it, and it's not going to take the heat of the day, then really the Pro is the right solution. And I think if you educate the end user on the benefits of that TV, talk about how it's going to provide that great enjoyment, then it's not as hard of an upsell into the Pro as you might think when you can clearly articulate those differences. But veranda is by and far and large the predominant volume driver of the business for us. But with this recent Signature promotion and what we think is going to happen when Pro gets fully released back out into the wild, those are going to be fantastic sellers for us.
Hey, Adam, can I pull you in for a second? Do you have different versions, or are all of yours the Signature line, for instance?
No, I have all 3 versions, and based on the way the patio is laid out, I have a covered space, so I have a veranda underneath that. Further out on the patio, there are areas that get sunlight most times of the day, so times that we would want to use it. So there's Pro versions sitting out there, and then on a different corner that only gets sun in particular parts of the day, I can go with the Signature, because the times you're going to want to use it, and even if you wanted to use it in the direct sun of the day, the sun isn't there long enough to really have an impact on the physical performance of it and get into the situation that Steve is talking about. So yeah, I can leverage all 3 just based on how the sun lays during the day in different areas of that back patio.
Thanks for your expertise. It's all about that, right? And Anthony, your question regarding sunlight, I hope we kind of covered a little bit of that. If Steve, you want to speak to, again, Anthony, just asking deeper questions about sunlight and what's best for him. Also, yeah. Another related question, Tom was asking about the ETA for the Pro models release. Is that something that we've got?
We're still working through every possible angle. Let me just say that I'd say probably a disproportionate amount of my time day to day is spent on trying to do everything I can to get Pro into the market as fast as possible. And so we're not ready to communicate a final date right now because we're doing everything, pulling every trick we can to try and get it pushed up sooner. So I think we have closer line of sight on that. And actually, I think my next meeting after this is probably going to lock down what that exact timing looks like. But going back to Anthony's question, if the TV is not being used during direct sunlight exposure, I think, yeah, that's probably a good solution like Adam was talking about. I would say you probably want to cover the TV though during the day. And I would say that just in general, right? Put a SunBrite cover over the TV, protects it against, dust and pollen buildup and things like that. You think about your car being outside in certain environments where pollen can be heavy or dust can be heavy. You don't want to have to go clean your TV screen every time you go out there to enjoy it. So I think adding that cover is also a great solution in that space.
God, thanks for the question, Anthony. Hey, Steve, I'm kind of to round out your 15 minutes of fame, if I will.
Okay.
Talk to us about mounting solutions. These guys are up against that all the time. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So yeah, we have a breadth of mounting solutions out there. We obviously have pole stands, we have wall mounts. Right now we do have ceiling mounts, but we are currently evaluating some changes to our ceiling mount line. So those are currently unavailable. We're working through some changes there. Frankly, we're looking at how we can make some changes. We've seen, one instance where there was an opportunity to change the install method for a installation. And so we're looking at a couple of additional safety features to those lines in the near term to get them back to sell. Got it.
And again, everybody, if there is, there's total visibility of all the SnapAV products at the Snap Pro stores. Something that we've really enjoyed doing, marrying your Snap numbers and you being able to see same pricing if you are in fact a Snap dealer. It's been really working well for you guys in a sense to be able to look at not only the Snap website and its depth of knowledge, and your website is so great. Our website is so good. But remember, that is your silent partner at night. So continue to seek out solutions that way and work with my crew during the days for installation tips and what is just perfect for what you're being asked. Steve, I really appreciate your time today. Again, you're going to see we are going to see a lot of SunBrite activity throughout the next 2 months here. It's timely right now, so I really thank you very much for your time and your team, the SunBrite team. Like to follow up with anything?
Yeah, just one more thing, Gary. One thing that's not overtly called out on any of our sites at this point, we're working to get updated, is just want to confirm for all our dealer partners that all of our TVs are IP55 rated. So I know that's a question we get. We have certified every single unit on the entire product line to IP55. So if that's ever a question, that's the answer on that for your customers or for your end users.
Got it. Thanks for your time, Steve. Okay, so JP, we were talking about our dealers and what they're facing. Talk TVs, and we kind of just did a roundhouse discussion before we set the meetings up, and that brought us right to media distribution, right? We got so many solutions here, and my good friend already, Adam, you're heading that up, and I'm really curious, as to start with, what does that mean as far as the demands of what does media distribution mean from SnapAV, and then let's apply it to our outdoor solutions.
So for us, media distribution I'm focused on the video side of things, whereas Matt is focused on the audio side of things. We kind of share the responsibility from an audio for video perspective, depending on how audio-centric that particular product is. There's some accessories in the line for extraction of audio, as an example, that would be my responsibility versus maybe some other things that have HDMI inputs but are more audio-related products, that would be within Matt's group. From a media distribution standpoint, for us, it's outside of SunBrite, and SunBrite is kind of an outlier from a display perspective, but we make every piece within the signal chain other than the source device and the display typically. And so we're challenged with moving content from one place to another. That's really the essentially what we do to provide flexibility for the customers of our partners in being able to watch content anywhere and everywhere. And so media distribution for us is HD-Base-T, it's matrix switchers, extractors, extenders, MOIP, media over IP. So putting things onto the network and being able to build more flexible solutions by being able to put it onto the network. And we can extend that to outside, just as an example. Certainly you could use an extender and stick it in the media bay. So one of my TVs, I have a veranda out on the patio, and I'm using a B660 extender from the media room out to that location. So I've got a receiver sitting in the media bay of that TV. So, and it's interesting, you have to consider things like heat dissipation and things like that when you're putting stuff in the media bay. Obviously that gets exacerbated when you put it in a partial sun or a full sun location. So we have different options to do that. So the corner TV that I have a signature TV out there, and it gets some significant sun during the day. It's not direct sunlight, but it can at least heat up. And so for that one, I don't have a receiver in the media bay on that. I tried putting an Amazon Fire TV within the media bay and found that that would overheat. And so what I'm doing is I'm leveraging an HD-Base-T input on that. So taking one of our extenders, I think on that one I have the B660-40 extender, and I'm using the transmitter side of that to transmit content out to that HD-Base-T input on the TV there, so I don't have to worry about having a physical device in that media bay because of how hot that particular TV gets. So there's a lot of flexibility in what we can do from a media distribution perspective, and it gives us that flexibility in the outdoor space to deal with things like distance and heat, and providing a more flexible way, a better opportunity for us to distribute content out into that outdoor space.
Hey, really quick, do all of the TVs emanate the same heat source, heat signature? Are you ever up against, the Pro line being hotter in the bay or anything like that?
I don't think that's really, that's more driven. Yet there are there's a variety of brightness on the TVs, but I don't think that really is impacting the temperature on the TV. What I've seen is the temperature within the media bay is more related to just physical placement of that TV and where it is in relation to the sun.
We also, this is Vernon here, we also do have, in the Pro models, we do have fans in that TV that actually will circulate air in that media bay. So if you do know you have a source that's going to live in the media bay and it's going to be out in direct sun, the Pro would be your better solution for that TV.
Yep. Thanks, Vernon. You jumped in where I was getting ready to jump in. Thanks.
There you go. Question coming from Frank. If we use an extender out to an outdoor TV, where do we recommend locating the receiver end of the unit? And they do not fit in the SunBrite component, do they?
Well, the only place I've seen issues is would be the 42, 43 inch SunBrite TVs. Some of the MOIP units will not fit in those bays just because the MOIPs is just a bigger unit. But if you're doing a 55 or 65, you won't have any issue there. So. And
Adam, do you have any comments on soundproofing components that are not soundproofing, but weatherproofing components that might not be? And how does that relate to a perfect setup?
That's a tricky situation, right? You want to be careful when you're altering any device. I don't know that we really have good methods or recommendations on that. Outdoor enclosures do exist. There's nothing that we sell today, but there are outdoor enclosures that you can purchase out on the market today that would help in driving some protection from weather-related issues. But I don't know that I'd really rely on those. I think the media bay in the back of the TV is a great resource because it's designed for that. Outside of that, yeah, there are opportunities to be creative, but you've always got to be careful of heat and humidity and water insertion and things like that. So I think it's difficult to recommend a blanket a blanket suggestion on how to deal with those, because they're very case by case. They're different.
Well, sure.
depending on-
Well, I'm curious, is our tech support is that like one of the most common work-throughs and fixes for us is just basic weatherproofing and that issue for our installers out there?
I don't know that I've seen it come up a lot. I think the flexibility of solutions that we have and the ability to extend it and be able to put things into the media bay. And as an example, if you are using a SunBrite TV, I think we have pretty solid solutions for that, where you don't have to really run into a situation where you need to get creative. And typically, if you're not buying a SunBrite TV, you're buying an inexpensive TV to put outside. Those are typically in covered areas because they can't sustain that type of environment. And so you've already got coverage there where you can get a little bit creative on how you're putting a physical device on there. Heat and humidity, we're pretty much okay. Obviously, that depends on your physical location, geographically.
David is asking how many extenders can fit in the enclosure?
I have not tried to fit more than one and tried to Jenga more than one in there. So it will depend on the particular component and the particular TV. The size varies on the media bay depending on the model and the size of the TV and where we had physical space to put that enclosure in the back.
Right. And Joe's asking for some dimensions. So we'll help Joe out and get the dimensions of the different models on the base for him. And I'll get that info.
Those should all be in the SunBrite manuals.
Got it.
Yeah, I was getting ready to pull it on there.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to add to this. I think just taking a step back, I think this is an opportunity for us. I think for everybody on the phone call here today, it's an opportunity for you guys to share with us what your needs are. We are all very keen in the product development organization on trends that are happening in the marketplace. We'd love to hear from you guys in terms of what those are. We know that sources are becoming decentralized from the rack, which presents challenges in terms of where do you put those things if it's not in a rack that you're centralizing and then moving that signal to the outside. So I just want to say that let's use this forum as an opportunity where if let's not just share what we're doing with you, but share what your needs are with us, so that those can be opportunities for us to look at new product ideas, different ways that we should be thinking about doing these types of things. So I think there's tons of opportunity, not only in video, but audio, to be thinking about how we decentralize and accommodate those types of sources.
Yeah,
and I would extend that comment beyond this event. We are very open to those discussions. So if you guys have a need and you want to facilitate a discussion, you want to talk about what you're seeing and what challenges you face, I will gladly make time in my schedule to foster that discussion.
Hey, Adam, before I let you go, can you talk a little bit about the smart device world? I mean, the smart devices that, in the network practices, wired connections, obviously. Can you talk to the guys a little bit about what they're faced with?
Yeah, so from a smart device perspective, right, that's really where the value of media distribution shines. People are very particular about the smart platform that they use. The things that are built into TVs today may not necessarily be incredibly valuable or the right experience for your customer. And then there's also content limitations to those. Use Vizio TV as an example, right? As we're talking about outdoor space, if I'm wanting to take a cheap Vizio TV and put it out in my outdoor space and leverage that platform doesn't support HBO Max as an example, right? So part of the value that we bring to the table from a media distribution perspective is even if I don't want to take that Apple TV and put it out in the media bay because it won't sustain the temperature or whatever, we do have solutions to be able to support that. So from a smart TV perspective, I shared my experience with a Fire TV in putting it in an outdoor sun space, and that the Fire TV is a Fire Stick that I had just plugged into the back of it. It just couldn't handle the temperature. If I take that Fire Stick out and I put it into a veranda TV that's sitting in a covered space, it works just fine. So it really depends a lot on the environment. And the other caveat I'll throw out to that is the majority of those devices, Chromecast or even the new Google TV device, and smaller, the Fire Sticks and Roku sticks and things like that people will typically put in an outdoor space. The other thing you need to be cognizant of is those are wireless devices. They don't have a physical connection on them typically. Some you can facilitate with a USB interface, but typically those are wireless devices. And so you'll just want to be careful of your wireless content outdoors. We do offer wireless access points. Somebody brought that up earlier. To add wireless capability to that outdoor space, there's tremendous value for your customers for that anyway, and just having better wireless connectivity in the outdoor space just for phone connections and the ability to interact on your phone. But even from smart devices, wireless is important to take into account as well if you're going to put it in the media bay, which are currently all metal enclosures.
Thank you. Also, Adam, how about talking about Oversea in this whole process and MOIP as well? Some of the tried and true products that we have, and anything to keep in mind here on.
Yeah, sure. We talked about the MOIP receivers. They fit in the majority of those platforms. You can take a MOIP receiver and put it in the media bay if you're using MOIP for video distribution. So that gives you some additional flexibility as well, just based on the nature of a media over IP solution and the value that brings to the table in expanding a system by displays or by sources by just adding a transmitter or receiver. So we leverage Oversea in MOIP to do firmware updates and things like that. There's a huge opportunity that we have in leveraging Oversea to pull better information from all of the components in the signal chain. So we're working to look at to foster that moving forward, so that we can help to be more proactive in managing issues. Customer doesn't, the system powers on, but they're not getting content on the display or whatever it is. Those compatibility issues that I brought up earlier are a lot of what we focus on in media distribution, and Oversea is going to be a valuable resource for us moving forward to gather a bunch of information and be able to almost crowdsource the compatibility data so that we have better visibility and faster visibility to when issues crop up from a compatibility perspective.
I love the deep dive there. Bill is asking, good question. Any ideas on how best to extend one's voice to something like a FireCube TV, which is not great at picking up sound?
Stay tuned on that. There's some exciting things that we're looking at moving forward that will better position us from a voice interactivity in general, but also in the outdoor space for sure.
Great. And did we cover Frank's question regarding the media bay, the extender in the media bay? Will it return the arc back to the audio equipment when using the smart TV? I think it's
depending on the transmitter set that you use. Some support arc return, some do not. Some also support the return of just a toss-like audio signal. So if you didn't want to use audio return channel specifically, you could have that audio feedback just using an optical output of the TV with an optical input on the receiver to be able to feed that back. So look in the B660 line of extenders, we have some audio return options in there.
Got it. We can address Eric's question about some TV mounts in a sec, but this is a perfect segue to bring up Matt into the discussion with speakers. David was asking, can you strip the audio from the veranda TV to an outside speaker system? How would you do that with a distribution angle there?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways to do it depending on the setup. I think it's a complicated question that probably needs a little more insight and understanding as to where the source is and stuff like that. But maybe Steve can also talk to it a little bit. But all of our SunBrite TVs now have built-in amplification, and so there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either strip off the audio at the source and then put that into a centralized amplifier that you can then distribute to different zones. Whether that be a landscape system or a surface mount system. Or if you've got your audio going directly into your TV and then you want to take the TV's audio out and go into either a sound bar or a pair of surface mount speakers or something like that, you can do it. So there's a number of different ways to accomplish it. Again, it's not a straightforward answer, depending on, again, where your source content lives, what type of outdoor audio system you're doing or you're installing. If you're doing a landscape system, you're likely going to not be able to use the amplifier built into the TV. You're going to have to take that video's audio back to your rack and likely do a what we call a hybrid amplifier to do 70 volt and 8 ohm for your landscape system. So anything I'm missing there, Steve?
Nope. I think you covered it, Matt, pretty well.
All right, well, segue. Let's bring up Matt. Matt, good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah.
He told all of us in the pregame that he has the coolest job in the world, or out of any of us, because he gets to crank tunes all day and become a true audiophile. But no, we, with you here with episode, the basic question still with our outdoor scenarios is the 70 volt versus 8 ohm. A ton of questions here that I'd like you maybe you can do an intro and talk about your expertise on this. Talk specifically about what these guys are faced with. Let's try to drum up some questions on speaker activity on our outdoor solutions, which are tremendous, by the way. But good working with you.
Yeah, I'll do a quick intro, and fortunately, I've got some support here, so I'm going to share some screen time here with Vernon and Dave Phillips as well. But I'm Matt Camp. I've been with the company for about 4.5 years now. I head up all of our audio business, and so. The one thing I'll just kind of say holistically is we've got a saying that, SnapAV, we want to be the place where pros buy audio. And that's not just our own brands, but that's, first party and third party brands. We've got not only Episode, but Try It as well. And then we distribute, Klipsch and Kef. And so generally speaking, from an outdoor perspective, and this holds true not just for outdoor, but all of our segments is we want to have a full suite of solutions that you need to be able to serve that market. And so we want you all to be thinking of outdoor audio as an extension of the home. Your outdoor zone should just be another zone of audio from your home. And there's a number of different ways that you can accomplish that, whether that be through, a landscape system, whether that just be through, a pair of surface mount speakers on the side of your house. If that's, something you want to hide in a bed, with rock speakers, or if you've got commercial applications where you need to put 360-degree speakers. Our goal in the audio is to give you all the tools that you need to be able to serve all of the different installation segments, again, one of which being outdoor. So hopefully that kind of provides a little bit of context as to what I do and kind of my job here. And Vernon, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself as well, but Vernon is instrumental in helping us to make sure that we are designing the right product, testing our products to make sure that they're suitable for the field. And let me not steal your thunder, Vernon. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Vernon Furr. Been with Snap 14 years now. I actually came from the industry, guys. Been in the industry since 2000 and love it. Absolutely love every minute of it. And I'm fortunate. I actually get to work for a great company and get to listen to music and play with stuff every single day. It is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal job. So, yeah, so work with Matt, alongside Matt. And what I do here is they think up with the ideas of the products. We bring it in-house and we say, is this going to work for our dealers? Is this going to work for you guys, our partners? And I try to do my best job as getting all the bugs and kinks out before it gets into your guys' hands. So when you're on a job, it's going to work the first time for the audio products and for other products that we develop here at Snap. So that's my goal here, is to make sure you guys have a great experience with all the products you guys install.
You're on mute, Gary.
Sorry, there I go. Hey, David, want to add any perspective in your speaker world, in your audio world too? And before we kind of go into a little bit of a deep dive on some perfect practices.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I currently, I work in the product marketing department here at SnapAV. I was originally employed by Control4 in 2010. So just kind of coming up on 11 years with the company now. My background, like Vernon, is I was a dealer. I was installing and configuring and programming whole home smart systems, everything from audio to back then, we were still selling CRT TVs. So times have changed to a degree. But yeah, the last few years I've been in product marketing. So my job is really focusing on the products we're building, identifying what's important about it, what's special about the product, and making sure you guys get exactly what you need when you are looking on our website or going through our local stores.
Got it, and it's much
Gary-
appreciated. It's
Gary,
great.
if I could just say one more thing too, I think, and this probably also extends beyond the audio category. I think, this goes without saying that we're in a really unique time, and that presents a really unique opportunity going into this year's outdoor selling season, where people are stuck in their homes. They want to feel comfortable going outdoors, but in a way that they feel like is safe. And outdoor entertainment is a great way to upsell people on installs in your home, and hopefully the goal of all of us here is to be able to provide the full suite of solutions to enable you all to do that. So think of this as entertainment outdoors, whether that be a watch experience with video or an audio experience. But one of the highlights of my job, Vernon, you said it, we get to listen to audio all day, every day. But one of the highlights of my job is when somebody hears an outdoor landscape speaker system for the first time. It's like nothing you've ever heard before. It's like you're in an outdoor amphitheater in your own backyard. So if you haven't done it before or you haven't experienced it, I highly encourage you to do it. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we got some demo systems set up at the local locations too for people to listen to and check out.
We do.
I thought you were giving out samples.
Yeah.
Hey, we can do
That's
that.
where
too.
I thought you were headed.
Listen, I'll tell you, our dealers know this. Okay, we got 110 people on here. I want to get one of these guys stumped, and the person who's going to get stumped, okay, is going to give out something. I guarantee it. All right, so let's get to some stuff. Maybe Matt, you can fire off some lightning round stuff for me, but let's dive deep into it. The basic questions: a 70 volt versus 8 ohm system. How do they choose? And how do you wire a 70 volt system? Let's talk about coverage and in a perfect scenario, small, medium to large.
Yeah, I'll share this question with Vernon. So Vernon, help me fill in the gaps here. But at its highest level, the basic difference between an 8 ohm system and a 70 volt system is in how you wire it. So 8 ohm, every speaker has to be home run, which presents a very big challenge when you start to think about large scale systems like landscape systems, where you've got multiple speakers around the perimeter. You don't want to have to take every speaker that you wire up and bring it back to the rack. That's a lot of wiring. That's a lot of trench digging. And so at its core, think of a 70 volt system for something that you want to be able to scale. That also applies for commercial systems. If you're doing a commercial building where you want to put multiple speakers in on a floor and you want to daisy chain those, that's where 70 volt is very helpful. The benefit of a 70 volt system is not only with scale, it gives you flexibility. You can always add more speakers. You just add one more onto the chain is one benefit. Another benefit is that with a 70 volt speaker, you actually have a transformer. With that transformer, it allows you to adjust the wattage setting at the speaker, which translates to volume. And so depending on how far from the listening position you have a speaker, you can adjust that transformer tap setting to get the appropriate sound in the listening position so that you have uniform coverage. Sometimes you've got a seating area with gravel that requires you to put a speaker further away, so you can increase the tap setting to make that speaker louder so that at the listening area, the further speaker and the closer speaker both sound the same. The downside of a 70 volt system is that oftentimes you degrade audio quality. Introducing transformers oftentimes, and more so on the low end of the frequency spectrum, you can saturate your signal. And so by going with 8 ohm, you're oftentimes going to get a louder, cleaner signal, but you've obviously got the trade-off when it comes to the wiring. So it really just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. The benefit of a 70 volt system is oftentimes you don't need each of the speakers to play as loud because you have more of them, right? So you're spacing out your speakers every 6 to 10 feet in a landscape system, versus if you want 2 speakers on the side of your house to provide coverage for a 3,000 square foot backyard, you want those 2 speakers to be able to project very far and very loud. And in that case, you'd likely want to do 8 ohm. So, again, there's pros and cons to both. We have designed our landscape system, the Episode landscape system, to be what we call a hybrid system. So the landscape satellite speakers are actually 70 volt. There is an 8 ohm bypass if you do want to use them in 8 ohm, but the landscape satellite speakers you do in 70 volt. That gives you the flexibility and the scale to do many of them around the perimeter. And then, like I said, oftentimes the downside of a transformer is in the low end of the frequency. And so what we actually do is we use an 8-ohm subwoofer to provide that really, really heavy, deep, hard-hitting bass. All of our outdoor amplifiers are 2-ohm stable, so you can actually take 3 subwoofers, wire them in parallel, and drive them off a single channel as well. So that's how we've kind of solved that problem. It's worked extremely well for us and from what we've heard for you all as well. So, Vernon, anything to add?
No, I think you did an excellent job there, Matt. So, no, actually, I don't have anything to add. If it's a smaller system in the backyard, it's not spreading off, a full acre lot. I typically like running 8-ohm systems myself, and I'll use since our speakers are 8 ohms. I'll use some flexibility there, and actually I will daisy chain, 2, depending on the amplifier I'm using, like our hybrid amp. I'll daisy chain 2 to 3 speakers off of one channel of the amplifier. So that way I can run, 6 speakers off one, or basically 3 speakers off of one channel, another 3 speakers off another channel, and then use another amp for a sub. Just if that customer wants a little bit more clarity, more sound quality, or if you're trying to do a stereo application in a smaller backyard. If it's a large backyard, just stick with mono and stick with a 70-volt system for the speakers, and then tie in our either 8, 10, or 12-inch subs to provide that extra oomph to that low end that customer is looking for.
So what kind of coverage, could we get from just 4 speakers? Of course, there's so many variables. Is that like a 40 by 40? Is that, sans the subwoofer there? But, in terms of square footage.
Yeah, again, like you said, there's a lot of variability there. How much background noise is there? How big are the 4 speakers that you're using? How much power are you providing? Let me just kind of provide a solution that kind of fits into this context. We sell a what we call a value landscape system, which is called our episode terrain system. That is a bundled 4 satellite speaker, 1 subwoofer bundle. You can actually add up to 4 more satellite speakers to make it an 8.1 system. Those are 4-inch drivers. That system specifically, it's a unique design in that everything is wired in parallel. And by wiring it in parallel, you're changing the nominal impedance to the amplifier. So the 4.1 system is actually an 8-ohm load. So you can actually drive that off of a standard, second powered zone of an AVR, or just a standard multi-channel amplifier. But to answer your question, we have done measurements and testing. So for a 8.1 landscape system that is 4-inch satellite speakers, you can properly cover roughly about 3,500 square feet. So think of a small to medium sized backyard. You can tend to cover with about 8 speakers. So 4 speakers, I would say you can probably cover, depending on, again, the size of the speaker, the power, whether or not you're running them in 8-ohm or 70-volt, probably around 2,000 to 3,000 square feet.
Let's talk to you a little bit about the subwoofer choices here. And what those options are. Obviously, we've got terrain systems. What are best practices? Can you have more than one? Can you bury them?
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if you want to take this one on the subwoofers, but yeah, we've got tons of options and choices.
Yeah, first of all, you can never have too many subwoofers. That's my number 1 rule in life. All the subwoofers, and we've got tons of choices, as Vernon said. We have a variety of driver sizes. So I think the range is 8, 10, and 12-inch driver sizes. We have really an option for every space, and you can combine them too across the different kind of styles or customer preferences or requests. So everything from a kind of a patio mounted it looks just like a regular subwoofer, like a kind of cube-shaped product that would sit on a patio, relatively easy to install, of course, all the way through to quite large burial subwoofers, where you end up with a very small, unobtrusive piece of the subwoofer protruding. to make sure that you still feel the impact and make sure you can still hear the bass. But the bulk of the product is actually buried underground. And then we've also, I think just last year actually, we released some rock style subwoofers. So yeah, plenty of choices. I mean, it's going to be how would you choose them? I think it's really going to come down to the style of the yard. Is there any other major surgery going on out there? Is there already somebody out there who can, dig you a nice big hole for a subwoofer? Or is it a kind of a quick retrofit? But yeah, plenty of options. And of course you can mix and match them too. You're not necessarily bound to sticking with just one style of subwoofer. You can mix and match as you go.
Good topic to expand on. We're talking about wiring and burial. Is there, best practices for burial and wiring for a sub? Obviously plenum we're talking about, or can you talk about a little bit about, David or Matt, your experiences there with proper burial depths, that kind of thing?
I think Vernon's probably the best person to answer this one.
If you're, running subs and stuff like that, you're using one of the hybrid amplifiers, we can generate, 1400 watts if you want to go mono, right? I'd recommend at least 12 gauge wire, which we actually are selling now for our direct burial. So we actually do sell the 12 gauge direct burial wire just to get that current to the subs. So we're not losing anything, especially over long distances. When it comes to 70 volt wiring, you don't have to use a 12 gauge wire for the speakers. You could actually scale that down to a 16 gauge wire and save some money there, and also some labor trying to run a 12 gauge versus a 16 gauge. Trenching, a lot of guys we're all used to trenching. If you have to trench, try to keep it below 4 inches in the ground. That way, gardening is not going to pierce the wire, or if you're running across a yard, you're not going to get, when they start to do the aerating, the aerator is not going to hit the wire. Best practice is run it in conduit. Just because this conduit doesn't mean you shouldn't use direct burial wire. I've seen a lot of places where conduits run, and you pull your wire through, and the whole conduit's full of wire, or full of water. So again, in that situation, you definitely want to run a direct burial wire that's basically watertight. And that also goes for if you're extending wire out to a SunBrite TV. Make sure it's in conduit, and make sure you're using a direct burial Cat 5, or that Cat 5 is going to soak in the water, and you're going to get return loss in that cable. So that's what I have. That's what I have for cabling.
Is there any other weatherproofing standards here that they might need to consider as well? And that goes across the speaker line. And what does IP56 mean? Is that part of,
I can talk a little bit about the IP standards, and Steve mentioned this a little bit when he was talking about SunBrite as well. But IP stands for ingress protection, and it's essentially a standards test that is done either first party or third party. But there's a process that you follow that measures. The first digit has to do with dust and particle ingress, and then the second digit has to do with water ingress. And so the higher the rating, so you could do IP, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Most products on the market are IPX, meaning that they don't do testing for dust or particle, and then the water ingress is 4. Most products on the market are IPX4, which means that they're tested with a steady stream of water. We test all of our outdoor speakers to IPX5 standards, which is a moderate jet from all directions. So essentially you could, wash this thing off with a garden hose. You can handle, water from sprinklers or bouncing, off of the ground or off of different positions as well. So, we, as part of Vernon's job and test and validation as well, we go through extensive, like what I would call like brutality tests, where we're doing brute trash cans full of water, and then we dunk speakers and see how long they last underwater. Things that we would never expect the products to be subject to in the field, but we never know. So that's what we do, is we do all of our outdoor speakers to IPX5 standards, and that gives us a lot of comfort that we know that they're going to withstand the outdoor environments for many, many years.
Last 5 minutes here. Let's talk about really quickly about our amplifiers that we prefer. You know, Adam, your preference of amplification might be different than Matt's. Matt might prefer, you know, to customize something a certain way other than our you know, in-house systems, so to speak. Or Vernon, you could have amplification considerations here. I'd like to mention to the guys as well. So anybody can take it.
All good.
Let's go with Vernon.
All right, Vernon, you go.
Vernon looks more tech savvy today. You know, let's get wires in the background. Matt, Vernon, let's talk amplification.
Well, you started with Adam, so I didn't know if he was going to talk first. But
That's true. You know, he's in a kickback mode. We'll get to him.
amplification. Well, again, on the episode side, we have, of course, for our outdoor landscaping, we have our hybrid amplifiers. Great thing about these guys is IP control now for the amplification. And so now you actually can independently control the volume on the amplifier. You don't have to control the source side. And again, it's a hybrid, so we can do a 70 volt or an 8 ohm out of this one system. So it's great because, again, we want to run our subs at 8 ohms to get more power to them and make them sound better because, you know, 70 volt doesn't do that well at low end. And so we'll set channel 1 for 8 ohm in our presets, and then channel 2 we'll set for our speakers. So you can set that for either for 8 ohm or for a 70 volt. And that's why we call it a hybrid system, because we can mix and match 8 ohm and hybrid. If we're doing a terrain system, like Matt mentioned, I like using our RSP amps that we just came out with on the episode brand, multi-channel amplifiers. We have that in a 2, 8, and a 16 channel, actually on a 12 channel, sorry, amplification. And those do a great job. If it's just a simple system in the background for the backyard, the terrain system works great with 55 watts to 100 watts of power. It jams. And so that can, I like using the multi-channel amplifiers with the terrain system, because again, with a multi-channel amplifier like the RSPs, you can use the other channels for other things throughout the house. So if you design your system properly, 16 or the 12 channel works great.
Hey, this might be a good time actually to talk about the new firmware that just got released for the hybrid amps. We just released this a couple of days ago, where we added Web Connect through Oversea to the 2 different versions of the hybrid amp. There's some other cool features like locking out the front panel to make sure nobody goes pressing buttons, and changing valuable settings, and then a bunch of other stuff too. So you can upgrade right now through Oversea or through the local web UI. But I wanted to just put a little plug in for that while we're on the call.
Great to know. Okay, we're coming down to about 5 minutes left. This has been very interactive, but we're not done yet. And before I turn it over to JD for the final comments, so JD, you can get ready for that one in a minute. Let's do this. We've got questions. We've got 10 or 15 questions. I want everybody on board on this one. We're going to do lightning round. I'm going to read them off. We're going to go through. We don't have to get too in depth. If it needs to get in depth, we can sidebar this with our customers. But let's just, I mean, this is unfiltered, guys, coming straight from 110 of our best partners, okay? All right, here we go. And anybody can just pipe in. Frank, any ideas on how to implement karaoke into the outdoor system? Any experience with this, guys? You get asked about that? Come on, panel.
The only feedback I've seen on that are not from an outdoor space perspective, but there are partners talking about that on the Facebook forum, and just talking about devices that they're using for interacting with the karaoke systems and things like that. But I've not had personal experience with it being used in an outdoor space on those speakers.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. And you and I both know, I mean, I'm bringing a microphone out, and how do we do that? And, you know, how do we distribute that audio? Entirely possible. I'd like to see, Frank, what you have in mind, what your job consists of as well. Cool from Joe here. Starting to design a lot of outdoor kitchens, fire patio areas, large properties. Is there a design service to help lay out the speakers and sub of 70 volt or 8 ohm? So Matt, where do the guys go to? What's the resource?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think tech support is a great first resource to go to. They're very knowledgeable, always willing and able to help with this type of stuff. We do have a formal design services team through our Triad brand. So feel free to leverage that as well. And then also through some of our third-party relationships with Klipsch, we also have design services that can help out. So, I think, we don't have a formal design service for the episode side of things, but again, feel free to call into tech support. Feel free to reach out to myself, Vernon, Dave. We're all willing to help when and where we can, and and make the best of whatever requests you guys have.
No, absolutely. I'll have some links on the follow-up email on Friday as well. And everybody's contact information will be on my email, so we can have some direct conversations as well. Testimonial from Barry that he's doing, he's installing a lot of episode landscape systems lately. He used the AMP hybrid 2D 2000 with 8 of the 6-inch satellites, a 12-inch buried subwoofer. It sounds great. So great testimonial there. Thank you very much, Barry, for talking about what's working for you. Brian Robertson, best practices. Do you recommend a 70-volt channel for left stereo and a 70-volt channel for right stereo? Matt, you want to take that, or Vernon?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to create a stereo system, then yes, you would need to run one right wire run for left, one wire run for right. Oftentimes in large systems, you don't want half of the venue playing the left side and half of the venue playing the right side. You want everything kind of coming across as one, which is when you would use a mono signal in 70 volt. But yes, if you're intentionally wanting stereo in a large system, then you would need 2 wire runs.
All right, Brian, thanks for the question there. Yeah, Dominic, this is being recorded. I will get it to you Friday morning to continue the discussion. Let's see, can you, yes, Bill, I'm gonna have everybody's contact information on my email as well. I think somebody's answering these as we go, but like a design service, any recommendations for all-weather iPad touchscreen installation, guys? That's from Philip. All-weather iPad touchscreen.
Depending on where it is outside. If it's going to be near heat sources, the iPads do not like being outside in direct sunlight. That's a tough one. I haven't seen one yet. Anybody else?
Not for me.
Philip also asked, my projects tend to favor decentralized video and music distributions. Their recommendation housings for smaller amps, as well as Sonos amp installations. Vernon, do you understand what he's trying to say there, what Philip's trying to say?
I'm carefully reading it again.
Yeah, carefully.
I think this is kind of what we talked about earlier, which is, there's definitely an opportunity for us to be thinking about the different types of sources that are being decentralized. And Adam mentioned there are some aftermarket or third-party, products that you can buy out there that can house, these types of products that do have, cooling fans and stuff like that. But I think that's definitely something we need to investigate more.
I think what's interesting to me that I've been reminded of during this call is that you have to have a product that's built for this kind of environment. It's hostile, and whether it's heat or water or dust or whatever, so in answer to that one, I would just try recommending moving the Sonos amp inside if possible, and just running wires out to an appropriate weatherproof speaker.
Yeah, when you asked that question earlier about the amplifiers, I think what I appreciate the most about our business model is the opportunity that we have to do not only products that we make, but people that we partner with. And so, right, I have a multitude of different amplifiers. I'm using an episode amp that runs a set of outdoor speakers outside, but then I do have surround sound out there. So I have an AVR out there as well, right? And the breadth of product that we have, what I appreciate the most about our model is just the flexibility that we have in various different approaches to any challenge that you need to tackle. Our goal is to try and have as many possible solutions for you as we can, so that you do have that flexibility depending on the situation. I think they're very situationally dependent And so there is no real blanket answer as to what the best go-to is, because it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like Matt said, from a stereo versus an overall sound perspective, right? How do you determine what the best experience is for the customer? And that'll depend on the physical space as much as anything else.
Exactly. I think you touched on, if I can expand for a second, you know, the confidence in the model, so to speak. Listen, with SnapAV now with Volutone, AllNet, Custom Plus, and MRI, that shows confidence in not only introducing the Snap product into the world of their daily installs, but a myriad of different products. And that's precisely why these forums are essential for these guys to talk about other brands that they maybe don't feel comfortable talking about with you particularly. Listen, the pro stores right now are enjoying tremendous success because of the partnership, because of our attention to detail, the products, and the knowledge base of our Snap employees. And so we thank you guys so much for the expertise. You know, again, the unfiltered approach. The bottom line is we all want these guys to complete the job with profitability, and we're partners for life here. So I thank you guys so much. JD, thank you so much for kind of dreaming this up and saying, hey, Gary, on your Wednesday webinar, I want to bring a cast of characters together and let's talk outdoor. There's many more subjects we can cover, but judging from the attendance and the questions, I think we hit it, man. And we're going to do this again. So yes, this recording, it will get to you guys. I'm going to dress up a whole bunch of links, everybody's contact information. But remember, we're back here in 4 more hours. And in 4 more hours, I'm going to require all these guys to put on hula shirts, man. Come on. This is an outdoor event. So, well, Vernon, if you're at work, you get a pass. Everybody else at home, let's go. For our later 2 p.m. West Coast, 5 p.m. session, our let's call it the twilight session. Mai Tais are optional, but we will be back. So if you guys definitely want to have more discussion on this, come back or invite your team back on here. The links are all over the place right now. So we'll be back in a few more hours. But guys, I thank you guys so much. JD, why don't you follow up with the last comments here for all of us?
Yeah, just, obviously thanks to all the attendees here and great questions. And like Matt said, it's for us, we love the feedback and interacting, and the more interaction we have with our partners who are the true experts and know what's going on in the field and the customer needs, it's so invaluable for us to get that information. So thank you for that. Just one other thing to bear in mind is we talked about some different brands and some different technologies. But one thing to always remember that runs across a lot of these products is Oversea. Dave talked about new Oversea capabilities in the firmware update. We do have Oversea on SunBrite. There's Oversea throughout binary media distribution. So again, besides the outdoor capabilities, they do still have a lot of the traditional capabilities that the Snap products have with Oversea, so that you can do the same kind of monitoring and troubleshooting remotely for outdoor projects as well. Save yourself some truck rolls to make sure that the customers are happy with the experience. So but mostly thanks for participating.
Good enough. All right, guys. Truly a unique experience today. I thank you so much, and I think we're going to get response for us to dream something else up and get the experts back on the panel from SnapAV. From all of us at the SnapAV Pro stores, I cannot thank you enough for attending each and every Wednesday in our webinar series. I'm Gary from Volutone and MRI and AllNet and Custom Plus, all in this together. Very busy. Want you guys to stay safe out there. Remember, next week I do AV Pros. We're talking about Fox and the Hound. We're talking about calibration. We're having some great discussion on their new MX line as well. We've got one of our other partners coming back. SnapAV is going to host a commercial training with Scott Norman. That's very exciting. Commercial is something I'm going to plug each and every month. I've got a new vendor and new discussions coming in specifically on our commercial side. So all categories covered only here at our SnapAV Pro stores, where you find this kind of coverage and this kind of, unfiltered discussion, all to help you guys. Vernon, Steve, David, Adam, JD, and Matt, I thank you guys so much. 4 more hours, hula shirts. We'll be back. So long, everybody.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Everybody.